Imagine holding an everyday coin in your hand, something you've seen and used countless times, and suddenly realizing it could be worth more than most luxury cars. That's the kind of story that makes collectors' hearts race, and today, we're diving deep into one such incredible piece, the 1987 US 1-cent penny error. At first glance, it looks just like the pennies we've all seen in our change jars or slipped into vending machines without a second thought. But when you look closer, the story changes. It's the kind of coin that blurs the line between pocket change and fortune, because some of these rare errors have sold for jaw-dropping amounts, reaching anywhere from $55,000 to $130,500, depending on condition, demand, and the exact type of error it carries. That's right, one tiny, copper-plated cent could rival the cost of a small house, all because of what went wrong at the mint nearly 4 decades ago. The year 1987 might not stand out as a major turning point in US coin history to most people, but in the eyes of dedicated numismatists, it quietly produced one of the most fascinating penny errors ever to surface. To understand why, we have to look at the era itself. In 1982, the US Mint had made the switch from the traditional 95% copper composition to a copper-plated zinc planchet, mainly to save on costs. That meant by 1987, every 1-cent coin was supposed to be struck on a zinc core with a thin copper layer, weighing just 2.5 grams. The dies used to produce these coins were precision tools designed to strike sharp, detailed images of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But despite the technology and quality control, errors slipped through. And in a hobby like coin collecting, errors aren't flaws, they're treasures. Some 1987 penny errors were caused by off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't perfectly aligned in the press, leaving part of the design missing and an unstruck blank area visible. Others came from die cracks, where a small fracture in the die transferred raised lines or breaks onto the coin's surface. But among the most coveted are double die errors, where the design appears doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process. Imagine looking at the date 1987 and seeing it shadowed by a faint second image, or spotting Lincoln's profile ever so slightly duplicated. It's an instant sign you're not holding a regular penny. And it's these rare and eye-catching details that can propel the value from just 1 cent to tens of thousands of dollars. Collectors don't just value rarity, they value condition. That's why a 1987 penny with a dramatic error in pristine, uncirculated condition is the ultimate prize. Coins that have never been through general circulation retain their original mint luster and sharpness, and when combined with a significant error, they can attract fierce bidding wars at auctions. In fact, some examples of the 1987 era penny have sold for as much as $130, $500, setting a benchmark that's hard to ignore. When you consider that most people handle hundreds, maybe thousands, of pennies in their lifetime without ever thinking twice, the idea that a single overlooked coin could change your financial situation overnight is nothing short of astonishing. It's also important to remember that not all errors are created equal. A slight off-center strike or a tiny die crack might be worth a modest premium, but the truly valuable coins usually have bold, obvious mistakes that anyone can see without magnification. That's why collectors often carry small loupes or magnifying glasses, because sometimes the difference between an ordinary penny and a six-figure payday is just a few millimeters of design shift. And with the 1987 penny, it's not just about spotting an error, it's about knowing which errors command the biggest prices. Those with dramatic doubling on the obverse, or large planchet clips where part of the coin's edge is missing, tend to be among the most desirable. Combine that with a high grade from a professional grading service, and you've got the recipe for a record-breaking sale. When these coins show up at auction, they don't just attract veteran collectors, they draw in casual hobbyists, treasure hunters, and sometimes even people who found the coin in a jar of spare change. The bidding can start modestly, but as soon as the coin's rarity and condition become clear, the numbers climb quickly. The story behind the coin adds to its allure. A 1987 penny error isn't just a manufacturing mistake. It's a frozen moment in US minting history, a reminder that even in a highly controlled process, human and mechanical error can create something entirely unique. For the average person, the best part about coins like this is the possibility that they might be hiding in plain sight. Millions of 1987 pennies were minted, and while only a tiny fraction have these dramatic errors, the chance is still there. That's why so many collectors advocate for checking every coin that passes through your hands. You never know when you might be looking at a fortune disguised as a penny. Think about it. A coin weighing less than 3 grams, made mostly of zinc, carrying a face value of 1 cent, could be your ticket to a $55,000 to $130,500 payday. That's the kind of story that makes coin collecting endlessly exciting. The process of authenticating and grading these coins is also a fascinating part of the journey. Serious collectors don't just rely on a coin's visual appeal. They seek certification from respected grading companies like PCGS or NGC. These organizations not only confirm the error but also assign a grade based on the coin's condition, from circulated examples to mint state gems. And every increase in grade can mean a significant jump in value. For example, an MS-65 red example of a dramatic double-die error penny from 1987 could be worth several times more than a circulated example with the same error. There's also an educational side to coins like this. They tell the story of how coins are made, how even the smallest variation in the minting process can lead to unexpected outcomes, and how collectors' markets respond to these anomalies. They serve as a tangible connection to the year they were minted, in this case 1987, a time when the US economy was shifting, technology was advancing, and yet, in the midst of it all, a simple penny could still surprise everyone. What makes the 1987 penny error especially captivating is that it's part of a relatively modern series. It's not an ancient coin or a 19th century rarity. It's something that, theoretically, could still be found in circulation today. That's a key part of its charm. It's a reminder that the world of rare coins isn't confined to dusty old cases in museums or the back rooms of elite collectors. It's alive and accessible to anyone with a keen eye and a bit of curiosity, so the next time you find a penny in your pocket change, take a closer look. Check the date. Look for doubling, for odd edges, for signs that something isn't quite right. Because while most pennies will only ever be worth 1 cent, there are those rare few that carry a story, a mistake, and a value that defies their humble appearance. And if you're lucky enough to find a 1987 1-cent penny error, you might just be holding a coin worth $55,000 to $130,500. A piece of copper-plated zinc that proves even the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. That's the magic of numismatics, and it's why collectors around the world continue to search, study, and dream of finding the next big treasure hiding in plain sight. The 1996 US 1-cent penny error coin is one of those incredible finds. At first glance, it looks like any regular penny, small, coppery, and easily overlooked. But beneath its humble appearance lies a story of rarity, human error, and unexpected value that can reach from $48,000 to a jaw-dropping $110,000 in the right conditions. That's the kind of number that makes you look twice at the change rattling around in your pocket. To truly understand why a simple penny from 1996 can command such a staggering price, you have to step back and picture what was happening at the US Mint during that time. 1996 was not a year where the cent saw any major redesign or celebratory release. It was just another year in the long line of Lincoln cents, a series that began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse carried the familiar bust of Lincoln, his profile crisp and dignified, with the word liberty to his left and the date to his right. The reverse still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, with all its columns and details intended to be sharp and precise. On the surface, nothing about 1996 suggested that anything extraordinary would happen in penny production. Yet that's the beauty and the mystery of error coins. They don't come from special plans or commemorations. They're born from human mistakes, mechanical misalignments, and the quirks of minting machinery. Sometimes it's a die that's worn past the point it should have been retired. Sometimes it's a planchet, the blank coin disc, that wasn't the right size, shape, or composition. And sometimes it's a strike error, where the dies fail to align properly or apply pressure evenly. Whatever the cause, these small flaws can turn an otherwise ordinary penny into something numismatists will pay handsomely to own. The 1996 penny error we're talking about here isn't just any run-of-the-mill mistake. It's the kind of flaw that stands out once you know what to look for. In some cases, the error might be a dramatic off-center strike, where part of the design is missing entirely because the die hit the planchet off its intended position. Other examples might involve double strikes, where the coin was struck twice without being properly ejected from the press, resulting in overlapping images that almost seem like a ghostly echo of the first strike. Still others may involve die cracks, raised lines across the coin caused by a damaged die, or even broad strikes, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to spread wider than normal. What makes these errors valuable isn't just their existence. It's their rarity and the condition they're found in. For every billion pennies minted in a given year, only a minuscule fraction will have a serious enough error to catch the attention of collectors. And of those, even fewer will survive in mint state condition without wear, scratches, or discoloration. That's why when a pristine 1996 error penny turns up at auction, it can cause a real stir. Collectors know how slim the odds are of finding one in top condition, and when demand meets rarity, the prices climb fast. Imagine for a moment standing at an estate sale or sorting through a jar of coins you've had sitting in the kitchen for years. Your fingers pass over countless normal pennies. Some shiny, some dull, until one catches your eye. The date reads 1996, but something about the coin looks strange. Maybe Lincoln's profile is shifted dramatically to one side, or part of the date is missing, or there's a doubled outline of the lettering that shouldn't be there. You feel your pulse quicken as you realize you might be holding one of those rare errors worth tens of thousands of dollars. Suddenly, this tiny disc of metal that would normally buy nothing more than a fraction of a stick of gum becomes the key to an incredible payday. Anywhere from $48,000 to $110,000, depending on the severity of the error and its preservation. It's hard to explain to someone who doesn't collect coins just how thrilling that moment can be. For collectors, coins are not just currency. They're pieces of history, artifacts of industry, and miniature works of art. An error coin like the 1996 penny is even more fascinating because it tells a story of imperfection in a system that prides itself on precision. The U.S. Mint's quality control is rigorous, and catching mistakes is a constant part of the process. The fact that a flawed coin managed to slip through, enter circulation, and survive for nearly 3 decades without being lost or damaged feels almost miraculous. The journey of such a coin from the mint to a collector's hands can be long and full of twists. Many error pennies spend years in circulation, their unusual features unnoticed by the people who spend and receive them. Others get tossed into jars, left in drawers, or tucked into piggy banks where they sit forgotten until someone takes the time to really look. It's a reminder that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, and all it takes is a sharp eye to uncover it. Now, if you're wondering how you can identify one of these valuable 1996 pennies yourself, the first step is to familiarize yourself with what a normal penny from that year should look like. That way, any deviations stand out more clearly. Look for off-center designs where part of the image is missing or shifted, doubling in the lettering, numbers, or Lincoln's profile, cracks or raised lines that suggest a damaged die, or unusual shapes and sizes caused by striking errors. A good magnifying glass can make all the difference, revealing details invisible to the naked eye. It's also worth noting that condition matters a lot. A 1996 penny with a dramatic error in uncirculated, mint state condition will command far higher prices than one that's worn, scratched, or discolored. That's why collectors often store their finds in protective holders and avoid cleaning them, as improper cleaning can reduce a coin's value significantly. If you believe you've found a rare error, the smartest move is to have it authenticated and graded by a reputable coin grading service. That official certification can be the difference between selling your coin for a few $100s and selling it for $48,000 to $110,000. There's something deeply satisfying about the idea that a penny 1 cent can be worth more than some luxury cars, more than a lavish vacation, more than years' worth of groceries. It's a reminder that value isn't always tied to size or original purpose. Sometimes it's tied to rarity, to human curiosity, and to the stories we attach to objects. The 1996 penny error is a perfect example of how the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. And perhaps the most exciting part of all this is that these coins are still out there. They haven't all been found and locked away in private collections. Somewhere in the flow of commerce, in cash registers, in coin rolls at the bank, in the change you get at a corner store, there could be a 1996 penny with an extraordinary flaw just waiting to be discovered. The odds may be small, but they're not zero, and for many collectors, that chance is all the motivation they need to keep looking. So the next time you find yourself holding a penny from 1996, take a closer look. Tilt it under the light. Study the details. You never know when you might be staring at an off-center strike or a double date that could turn a single cent into a small fortune. In a world where we often rush past the little things, it's worth remembering that sometimes the little things can change everything. That's the magic of coin collecting, and that's the magic of the 1996 US 1 cent penny error. A humble coin with the potential to turn a lucky finder into the proud owner of something worth $48,000 to $110,000. Keep your eyes open, your pockets ready, and your curiosity alive, because the next great discovery might be closer than you think. In the world of coin collecting, there are some discoveries that completely change the way you look at everyday pocket change. Picture this: you're going about your day, maybe emptying some change from your pocket or purse, and your eyes land on a 2018 US 1 cent penny. You wouldn't think twice about it, right? After all, it's a coin you've probably seen 100 times before. But here's the twist. Hidden among these seemingly ordinary pennies are rare error coins that can fetch a jaw-dropping price at auction, sometimes between $32,000 to $90,500, depending on condition, rarity, and demand. Imagine holding one tiny coin worth more than a brand new car, all because of a small minting mistake that most people would overlook in an instant. That's exactly the kind of story that keeps numismatists or coin collectors on their toes and always scanning their change. To really understand why a 2018 penny could be worth tens of thousands of dollars, you need to know how coins are made and how these fascinating errors come to be. The US Mint produces billions of pennies each year. Each coin goes through an intense process involving metal preparation, blanking, annealing, upsetting, and then striking. The striking process is where most errors occur, when the coin blank is struck by the dies that imprint the design. In theory, everything should go smoothly, producing flawless coins. But in reality, machines aren't perfect, and neither are humans. Small malfunctions, alignment issues, or even foreign material on the dies can result in coins that don't match the official design specs. These are called mint errors, and in the world of coin collecting, errors can turn an ordinary coin into an extraordinary treasure. Now, the 2018 penny already had a bit of attention because of subtle design changes over the years, particularly the shield reverse introduced in 2010. But when error varieties show up, they become even more appealing to collectors. One of the most sought-after error types is the double die, where the die shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubled image on parts of the coin. On pennies, you might see this doubling on the inscriptions like Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself. When doubling is crisp and noticeable without magnification, collectors go wild for it. Another common high-value error is the off-center strike, where the design isn't fully aligned with the blank. The more dramatic the off-center, the rarer it becomes, especially if the date is still fully visible, because that's essential for authentication and value. But perhaps the most exciting thing about the 2018 penny errors that have commanded auction prices up to $90,500 is that they combine multiple error types. For example, you might have a coin with both a striking error and a planchet flaw, like a clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin's metal is missing due to a cutting mistake. Or you might see die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait, creating raised metal lines that make each coin unique. These errors are not only fascinating from a manufacturing perspective, but they also serve as physical time capsules, proof that even in the highly automated, modern minting process, imperfections slip through. Imagine someone finding one of these in circulation. Maybe they're at the grocery store paying cash, and the cashier hands them a penny that feels just a little different. Maybe it has a shine that catches the light strangely, or the rim doesn't feel perfectly round. They pocket it without thinking much of it, only to later realize they've been carrying a coin that could pay for months of rent or even a down payment on a car. That's the magic of coin collecting. You never really know when or where the next valuable discovery will appear. Collectors place immense value on condition, so a 2018 penny error in pristine, uncirculated condition can easily reach the higher end of the price range. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC examine coins under magnification, looking for both the type of error and the quality of the strike. Coins that score high on the grading scale, especially MS65 or above, can cause bidding wars at auction. I've seen cases where 2 or 3 determined collectors push the price well past the expected range simply because they each want to own a piece of modern minting history. And that's when you start hearing numbers like $32,000 to $90, 500 for a coin most people would have tossed into a change jar without a second thought. It's also worth noting that 2018 pennies are still relatively young in the collecting world, which means there's still time for more error varieties to be discovered. As years go by, fewer of these errors will remain in circulation because sharp-eyed collectors will pull them out. That scarcity can make the surviving examples even more valuable over time. In other words, today's $32,000 penny could easily be tomorrow's 6-figure showpiece if demand continues to grow and supply keeps shrinking. For someone new to coin collecting, it might feel overwhelming to think about spotting one of these rare errors. But that's part of the thrill, learning what to look for, training your eyes to catch the little differences that most people miss. With a 2018 penny, that might mean paying close attention to the lettering, the date, the shield lines on the reverse, and the coin's overall shape. Any irregularities, whether it's doubling, missing details, unusual metal texture, or striking misalignments, should prompt you to take a closer look. Even if it turns out to be a minor error, you've taken one step closer to understanding and appreciating the art and science behind US coinage. Some might think it's crazy to spend hours poring over pennies when the odds of finding a jackpot coin are so slim. But for collectors, it's not just about the potential payday, it's about the hunt. It's about holding a piece of history, even if that history is from just a few years ago. Every coin tells a story, and an error coin tells a story of imperfection, rarity, and survival. And in the case of the 2018 US 1-cent penny, that story can also include a dramatic twist ending. One where your humble copper-plated zinc coin turns out to be worth as much as $90, 500. Think about that for a moment. How many 2018 pennies have passed through your hands in the past few years? Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands? Each one a potential hidden treasure. The difference between finding a common penny and finding a life-changing penny comes down to one thing: awareness. Once you know what's possible, you'll never look at your change the same way again. So the next time you get a penny in your change, take a moment to look closer. Feel the rim, check the date, scan the details under a good light. Because somewhere out there, in a coin roll, a cash register drawer, or the bottom of a jar, there might be a 2018 penny error waiting for someone like you to discover it. And if you're lucky enough to find one, you won't just be holding a piece of metal. You'll be holding a ticket to the kind of story collectors dream about, and potentially a payday in the range of $32,000 to $90,500. That's not just pocket change. That's life-changing change.